I'm honored to be the final presenter of this 20th annual World Congress of Qigong-Tai Chi-Taoism TCM Energy Healers. And I'd like to, I think it's appropriate as the final presenter on the main conference, to discuss how to alleviate, dissolve our fear of death, as that fear seems to be driving many people during this pandemic and these times, and driving them to hunker down in their houses in fear, driving them to take experimentally and I feel risky vaccines that have not been proven to be safe, and driving governments to deprive their citizens of their constitutional liberties, for which millions of people have died fighting for those rights. And now they're suddenly being taken away because of a fear of death. It's quite ironic. So if we can, alleviate and dissolve that fear of death, we can achieve a kind of detachment or a neutral space from which we can find our right path through these troubled times. And we can say they're just a transitional times, but we want to come out as soon as possible and find ourselves creating a harmonious and higher path for ourselves and for society at large and the planet at large. So the very notions of life and death are just based on beliefs. And as I mentioned in my keynote presentation, there's three major belief paradigms that are all kind of jockeying for power or influence, on this planet. And that's the religion, science, and the energetic middle ground, which is, as I mentioned, is mostly the people attending this conference. But in fact, most people tend to mix the three together. They can't figure it out. Like, where do I come from and who's right? When they have a birth or a death or some ritual, they go to religion or a priest. And then when they want something practical and they want to build something, they go to science. And then maybe they need some energetic healing and they affirm themselves in a daily practice, and they'll go to the energetic. And so you have kind of this mishmash between the three. And that's fine, but it doesn't really help us get totally clear on the issues of life and death. It just kind of blurs the lines, and then everybody sort of invents their own, belief system as to what's going on. I like to look at those three forms of religion, science, and the energy sciences, what I call the loving energy science. I like to look at them as all actually forms of human imagination. We have the religious imagination, scientific imagination, and we have an energetic imagination. And they're all valid. There's no right or wrong belief system. They're just like, how does it serve us? But I'd like to go deeper into that so we understand more clearly our often unconscious beliefs are the basis of our fears and our fear of death. And that leads us to possibly leading a less than fulfilling life if we live in fear. And as many scientific studies have shown, people in fear have a depressed immune system. And now they become self-fulfilling prophecy, they're more likely to get sick. So it's best we get out of fear. And death is the biggest bogeyman. how do we get past that one? So in the religious imagination, and the scientific imagination tend to be a hierarchy, like a pyramid. At the top, you've got, in the religious side, you've got a top god or an absolute or goddess or an absolute state of emptiness or something absolute. And then, you've got sub-deities or angels and bodhisattvas or whatever. And then you've got the masses down below struggling, and looking for salvation and being promised that if they behave properly or whatever and believe properly, then they're going to get up to somewhere higher up the pyramid after death. And in the science side, you also have another pyramid. Scientific materialism is always looking for the God particle, the one particle that gives birth to all the subatomic particles that give birth to the atoms and the molecules, the cells, and then finally this reality. And of course, they believe that this reality is the main reality. This is the core reality, and that all these other fields are creating this, as if we were. But within that material reality, all consciousness is an accident. It arrives after we have a body, and there's the first bacteria, and then you start to get consciousness. It's like a byproduct or just an accident. It's a chance arising. So different in the religious point of view, which is that there's spirit is infusing everything, and there's consciousness all the way through. And in the middle ground, the energetic realm, I'm going to speak from the perspective of Taoist cosmology, which is Qi-based and has a very refined model, okay? And let's just start with a common perception, though the Taoists or many of these Taoists are looking to seek immortality. And let's just note the difference between the Western quest for immortality is based on fear of death. I want to somehow stay here in this realm forever or prolong it as long as I can, because once I die, it's all over. Because science has no explanation for anything beyond here. Okay, it's materialism. Okay, this is material reality, and you're not here, then you're just over. Okay, so the Taoist belief in immortality, though, is actually a love of being multidimensional, of being creating a highest level of harmony in multiple dimensions. So it's not based on fear, and it's not trying to stay here in the physical dimension forever. They favor longevity simply because it takes a long time to develop the skills to integrate yourself completely here, your physical body as the densest layer of your energy body, and then all these other subtle bodies, which will then allow you, that's what they call forming the elixir. You have a chi ball. If you're in martial arts, you talk about a chi ball, or in alchemy, it's the elixir or the pearl. But basically, you create a vessel that can survive crossing the boundary of physical death and continues creating in higher dimensions. That takes time. It's not that they want to stay here forever. That'd be terribly boring, okay, to limit yourself to one dimension in this physical dimension. So I think is helpful if we understand this model, this Taoist Qi-based model more deeply, and how it can help us dissolve our fear of death. And the most important aspect of it is that the belief here is that there's a universal medium of Qi. It's actually a trinity of Jing, Qi, and Shen. Substance, subtle breath is the Qi, and is the awareness, or the spirit. And that if you can integrate yourself within this physical realm, then you can successfully make the transition and keep creating in the higher realms, which are inside of us. They're not up there in the sky. Okay, they're inside of us. Higher dimensions are inside of us. Um, what's, I think, helpful to get a clear picture of the difference in the Taoist belief system and this particular cosmology, and the difference between religion and the science cosmologies, um, is the religion and science cosmology are pyramidal. Okay, there's a top, and then it moves down to the bottom. Top God moves down to the people down below trying to climb up the pyramid steps, through their whatever their efforts and their beliefs. And in science, you have the particle, the God particle, and it's creating all the other things. That's also a hierarchy. Okay, there's a power structure there. Curiously, the scientific hierarchy is very similar to the religious one in that there's ultimately this absolute faith in the laws of science and whatever's creating that. Okay, we might just note that science is going through a total identity crisis right now, material science, because the Big Bang basically been discredited. And that was the basis of everything else. But none of the prediction, it was, Big Bang was created by a Roman Catholic amateur priest who was an amateur astronomer and a friend of Einstein's. And they said, oh, this is a great compromise between science and religion. But none of his predictions are coming true. As we get better and better at measuring the universe, it's just, Big Bang theory is just not working. Okay. And so there's a huge discussion and a crisis in cosmology and in science today, and they have nothing to replace it with. So that's just an interesting aside that all belief systems can change and be replaced by something new. And historically they have been. We get old religions die and then new ones come up, okay? And in the energetic realm, though, we don't have a hierarchy here. The Taoist cosmology is a sphere-archy. Sphere-archy means you've got 3 nested spheres, okay? And the outer sphere is really a thin skin. If you can imagine, you had a piece of fruit and a thin skin, that's the physical plane, okay? That's called later heaven. And then you've got an early heaven, which is kind of an energetic realm where all the archetypal shapes and tones, the music of the spheres, and everything that's going to birth itself into the physical plane. This is where it's gestating and it's forming. And where does that come from? That comes from a third heaven called the primordial heaven, or Tai, the great oneness, which is a state of pure unity. There's no polarity there. This Taoist cosmology arises from the Tao Te Ching 2,500 years ago. Lao Tzu in verse 42 put it very succinctly as the Tao gives birth to the one gives birth to the two gives birth to the three, and the 3 gives birth to the 10,000 things. So the 1, 2, and 3, state of unity, state of polarity, and the state of multiplicity, okay, is where we live, the physical plane, this later heaven. Interestingly, Lao Tzu never talks about hell. He didn't have any belief in hell. Never talks about reincarnation because there's no need for it. We can imagine that this piece of fruit or this outer heaven is spinning, and that creates the illusion of past, present, and future. So it seems to have a direction. But once you leave that outer skin, you move in, and you're moving back in towards eternal time, and there's no need for a past, present, future. That's really just a part of the experience we're having here. And it's a valuable thing to structuring our reality here. But this is, again, just the thin skin of much deeper, larger reality, with all 3 spheres. So sometimes these spheres are called, heaven, earth, and humanity. By the Taoists, they had a lot of trinities. But what's important here is that there's a universal medium of Qi. So even though you're in the physical plane here and it looks solid, but in fact, it's made out of slowly vibrating Qi patterns. And that when those patterns do what we call death, the Qi just transfers into the next heaven and hopefully circulates all the way back to source, to the inner sphere. And that there's a whole continuous flow between the core through the middle and out to the surface skin to this reality and back again. So we're constantly being nourished in every moment. And in fact, if you understand this model really deeply, you have to sort of let go of the linear notion of I was born on such and such a date, I lived, and then I died. That is just a story from this outer skin, because the reality is that you're being born from the three heavens, birthing into the present moment on the skin every nano moment, every nanosecond. And that's what allows change, is fresh chi flowing into the surface and then dissolving back in and recycling back and forth. So at every moment, we actually are reborn, okay? And this is what allows us to make slight changes. I move my arm over to here in this next moment, okay? I have this intention. It's not that we're trapped in this surface dimension here at all, but that we're constantly moving, vibrating in and out. And so when you begin to understand this, then already your fear of death begins to go away, because you understand that, in fact, you're connected to the whole right now. You don't need to wait until you die to meet God or connect back to the whole. You can cultivate your chi and track the chi from the outer skin, the outer surface reality, back into the core right now. And you don't need a priest. You don't need a scientist. You can just do it on your own. So I prefer this belief system, this Taoist cosmology, just because it's self-empowering, okay? And it's worked for me. I've tested it, okay? And I think that everybody, scientists, religionists, energetics people, there's a common, a universal intuition that we're all connected and that we're all somehow connected to something oneness. And you hear this in popular music and hymns and blah, blah, blah. And then, same in quantum physics, okay? They're going to say, oh yeah, this is, the whole field is connected, okay? They just don't consider it conscious, okay? Whereas in the religious side, they do. And in the energetic side, we do. So I believe the energetic model combines the best of science and religion, okay, and goes much further than either one of them in terms of our being able to directly access this, okay, in a systematic way. And so this common perception, of this intuition, rather, that we're all one, is just hard for us to verify, because we're all separated into different bodies here on this surface skin, of the cosmos. And what alchemy, Taoist alchemy, and combined with Qigong have given me is just a systematic way to explore those other heavens which are inside of me, and to make them more conscious. And you can say, in that sense, they become as real as the surface sensory reality here. And so it took me almost 30 years of self-cultivation, from 1980 to 2010, before I really had a direct experience of the innermost heaven, the primordial heaven, the state of complete unity, pure love, whatever, words fail, okay? Those are just concepts and they're slightly polarized. But I actually, in the middle of an internal alchemy retreat, I asked for and was taken into that source realm. And it was so powerful an experience and so affirmed for me that the unity and of this whole cosmos. I saw how small the earth and the whole physical realm, and it looked so big with all those trains of stars and all this stuff, but it was like a tiny grain of sand. Okay, and the field of love was so huge. It was just so overwhelming. that it completely erased any fear I had of death. I mean, I've been working on it, you can say, for 30 years, but that was the icing on the cake. That was just like, okay, that it's not just an intuition for me. It was, you know, it's my inner reality now. It has not gone away. So I'm able to hold. I mean, you can't get rid of that experience once it happens. It's just like, you know, you can't open and close it. Once it really takes root in your core awareness. But so this takes me beyond intuition or beyond mere faith, you know, into direct experience. And that's what I love about this, you know, loving energy science, is that through discipline and progressive cultivation into deeper and deeper levels of subtlety, we can begin to see how we're connected to all the other realms, and that this imaginary line between the outer skin and the later heaven and the early heaven and the primary is just, it's a concept, really. Okay, it's not life and death are really just ways of describing different states of chi vibration. That's really where you come to eventually. And so when you begin to function from that, then your life here becomes very different. You know, you just kind of relax, and it's like, question, okay, what can I do here? How can I accomplish my soul mission? And whatever the Tao Te Ching, the De means your mandate from heaven, your soul mission. You've been given certain powers and skills. Everybody's unique. And so this is the big difference between loving energy science and material science. Okay. They're both systematic. Okay. But in material science, everybody, all the scientists have to do the same experiment and get the same results, proving therefore that it must be true. But in an energetic science, we accept that everyone is unique. So when I teach a Qigong class or an inner alchemy meditation, let's just say there's 20 people there. Everybody is guided to do the exact same movement or the exact same energetic alchemical internal operation. And everybody has a completely different experience because they are unique and their energy body is different. Their elements are 5 elements, their yin-yang composition, the male-female polarity, everything. And so they're never going to have the same experience. And yet everybody progresses. Everybody evolves in their own unique way. But they don't have to have the same results the way you do in material science, because this is really based on each individual cultivating themselves and connecting back to source, back to origin within themselves. This is the main theme of the Tao Te Ching, return to origin. Okay. I mean, there's many things covered in that, you know, masterpiece, you know, 5,000 characters, but all the scholars agree that return to origin is central, the most core theme. How do we get back there? And that doesn't mean going somewhere else, like a heaven outside of our body. It means cultivating the chi within ourselves so that we become a more authentic expression of the Tao in each moment. And we're able to flow through all 3 heavens into this heaven and back into the source heaven, and, you know, renew ourselves constantly. And that could lead to states of longevity. And at the moment of so-called death, when we cross the boundary back into early heaven or primordial heaven, we're able to maintain integrity. So to me, it's a beautiful model. And it's one I've been able to verify for myself. I haven't, of course, tested the final crossing of the boundary, but I look forward to it. My graduation from Earth School. Okay. So anyway, that's just to give us the big picture here. On changing your beliefs is the first step to changing, getting rid of your fears. Okay. And trusting that connection you have to everyone and everything on a deep level, and not giving your power away to the power structures of, you know, either deity religion or, you know, economic, governmental, scientific structures, they're all hierarchies. Okay, they're all something at the top and telling everybody at the bottom what to do. So this is why the Taoist, said, look, I'm, as opposed to the Confucians who support that also. They're at the top down. The emperor is the son of heaven, and he's giving everything, all the orders, and then it goes down to the very patriarchal, the head of the clan, the head of the family, the father, and the Taoists saying, no, my authority is the primordial nature of the Tao and the wholeness of it, and getting into the origin. And they don't give their power away. But let's do a meditation. Let's just take something simple here now. We've been talking about the theory, and now I want to talk about, let's just close our eyes for a moment, if you will. I know I'm here on the screen, but you don't need to look at me. You can just listen to my voice. Close your eyes. Put your hands over your heart. Feel the heart beating there on the left side, the physical heart, but the spiritual heart's in the center. And just relax. Breathe into that central heart space. Let it aside me. Just let go of any tension. Yeah. And then you can imagine a little miniature version of yourself falling back deeper into the core of your being, into like an inner space. And let's just use our imagination here to help make that space more tangible. Just to see that you're falling back and you're supported, you're landing on this pink cloud. It's like a very comfortable floating armchair that you can just float onto, and it's vibrating, filled with unconditional love. And you feel just totally accepted, totally loved. You've shifted away from the polarities and the confusion and struggles of the outer world. You're now in this inner heaven, this mid-plane heaven. And you're just floating there. And it feels so wonderful and so pure. And the outer world cannot touch this inner dimension of ourselves, or this inner heart space. Yeah, just enjoy that and see yourself just smiling from there. Just being there puts a big smile on your face. And then you can relax your hands down. Now that once you get in there, put them on maybe on your lap, just your knees, just to stay grounded. And from this space, we have a neutral kind of space to view our outer self in the physical plane. We know there's deeper spaces, even more formless space of total unity, we could say, the deep core space where there's no form and no us. But we're just here in this kind of halfway heaven right inside of us. And we're going to use this space to embrace the aspects of ourselves that are interfacing with the physical reality, with the 12 organ spirits, the meridians, the 8 extraordinary vessels. These are all the deep channels that the chi is flowing through to help sustain our personality in its interaction with the world. So we're going to just see ourselves as loving and embracing ourself from within. So when we start to do that, we could start to, there's many infinite number of ways that we could do this. Smile up to our head first, where there's so many ideas and identities and beliefs and, so much memories and data, we could say, from our experience. Let's just feel that we can begin to smile to the polarities that exist there and embrace them in the left brain and the right brain. And just allow a kind of a golden liquid light to arise from our heart and fill up the left side of our brain. And just feel it bathing all those brain cells, those hundreds of billions of brain cells, awakening them, loving them, and healing them, just cooling them off with this elixir, this golden liquid light that we are allowing to arise from deep within us. And then you can kind of look to the right side and feel the liquid elixir flowing over the right half of your head and bathing all of those brain cells and all the organ aspects and the blood and everything that's in that part of the head. And smiling and feeling it's like a Christmas tree with billions of little lights lighting up as we bring this embrace and this self-love to our right side. And notice that it might feel a little different than the left side, but let's go back and forth a few times. Shift your weight to the left and let your eyes go to the left. And all the golden liquid light, the golden elixir flows into the left side of the brain. Emptying out the right. And on your own, just begin to let it flow back and forth between the right side and the left side, back and forth. Slowly or more quickly, whatever you feel inspired. Just to play with this polarity and see that they're connected by this inner core liquid elixir, this inner light. They have such different functions in the physical plane, and they appear to, divide out so many different aspects of our consciousness, but now we're letting them feel this play of what connects them. And again, shifting your weight and eyes looking right or looking left can help facilitate this feeling of this complete shift within. And then come into the center. There's a little bridge between the left brain and the right brain called the corpus callosum. Let's just the center of the brain and strengthen, expand, smile to that, and feel we're expanding the neutral space between the polarized left and right brain. And that becomes a stable point of connection where the two brains overlap and they both dissolve into neutrality there. And then let the golden liquid light and the elixir flow down, right down the core from the center of your brain, down to your throat. And pausing at the base of the throat is called the little heart, the thymus gland. Taoists say is key to immortality. Just pause for a moment there and smile to that. Maybe put your hands over that base of your throat. You can tap it gently a few times. And this is very key to your immune system. Let's just take a moment here and smile to that and feel like it's a flower bud that maybe has been closed up since we've been a teenager. And this slows down, and we're just going to flower it back open. And it just feels there's a big kind of golden flower, maybe a lotus or whatever your favorite flower is. Could be a rose, anything. And got this little heart here, the base of your throat, the thymus gland is re-blossoming. And this is what keeps us, the Taoists would say, gives us a long life. This flowering. They knew about this long before we had, modern science way to, dissect the body. They just could feel everything. And so it's just amazing that they were able to detect the thymus gland and knew its importance in our immunity. And so just smile. And from here, let's smile to our whole immune system. And that would include the genome, the 20,000 genes, and all the epigenes, epigenomes that create our personality and unfold in time and space. And as we evolve, smile, embrace, harmonize that. Just smile to your whole body to get to all those genes that are inside every cell. And there's about 80 trillion human cells. So this is a very subtle, fine, beautiful feeling. We're smiling into the DNA, and we'll say even the RNA of all those cells. There's 80 trillion cells. Ah, yeah. And then let's smile to the biome, which a lot of it's concentrated in our gut. Move one hand down to just around to your navel system. Keep one hand on the thymus. But of course, the biome is not limited to there. We have bacteria throughout the bloodstream and the lymphatic system, everywhere. And we know now it connects up to our brain and has a huge influence on our brain health. So smile to our biome, and there's over 200 trillion bacteria that are maintaining a whole ecosystem of harmony within us, key to our immune system. Oh, yeah. So this is a huge leap from 80 trillion human cells up to over 200 trillion bacteria. And just feel that genome and the biome smiling, embracing, merging into each other, supporting each other. Mm. Mm. Hmm. And then let's smile now to our virome, the 360 up to a quadrillion little viruses that we generate to as the backup to the biome and to allow instant mutations, instant changes, very fast, high level intelligence. Just appreciate even finer and even greater, larger number, that virome, key to our health and filtering out all the viruses from the external field that can come in through our eyes. They don't have to come in through our nose, through breathing. That's why all the mass studies show that they don't work. The modern mass studies, which are being all ignored. The viruses come in through the skin, through the eyes, everything. So they're so tiny. It's like a few nanoparticles, meters across. So we're really breathing viruses in and out all the time. Okay, it's just part of our process. And just feel them all kind of lighting up now as we acknowledge them and love them and just ask them to help maintain the integrity of our health. And that we're not going to choose to get sick because we have better ways to achieve our destiny. That is an option. Some may choose it, but for this moment, we're opting out of that one. Viruses cannot take us by force. We have to consciously agree to replicate the little viral fragments of COVID-19 or any other coronaviruses, and there are several hundred of them, okay? So we're just choosing to maintain the integrity, the coherence of our chi field and not allowing any disruptive forces into it. We're instantly balancing it. Now we feel the biome and the virome and the genome all pulsing together. Now bring your hand down down to your heart center. Let's bring both hands to your heart for a moment. We're going to gather this golden elixir here in the center of our chest, the spiritual heart. And let's do the same thing we did with the brain. Just shift to the right side and smile to the right side of your chest, filling that up and embracing all these emotional patterns. We have this love-hate relationship with most things in the world. I like, I don't like. And this polarity is often centered in our chest and our heart. And then shift to the left side. And just let your hands go. Just do this internally. Smiling. And again, we're just going to pour the golden liquid light elixir back to the right. Again, this is a divine act of imagination, but it's real. It's really interacting with our energy field, our energy body, which really affects and manifests into our physical body. And so we're flowing this back and forth, weight is shifting, our eyes are looking left and right. And all these polarities of love and hate, like and don't like, want and don't want, we're just beginning to blend them together so they're not so deeply polarized. You see, they're connected. Yeah. So this helps us to dissolve anger and grief and all kinds of patterns in some of our organ spirits. All these life experiences that we've accumulated that maybe are traumatic, and we just never had time to heal them or didn't have a method. Now, just think of anything that's really been you're struggling with. Put it there in the center of your heart in the neutral space, and then let it wash through left and right. Something you're really disturbed by, just to wash through this golden liquid light, embracing the polarities, the yin and the yang, and also washing through this detached neutral space in the core. Yeah. And slowly start to feel maybe the intensity of whatever it is that's bothering us the most, whatever maybe starts to just get smaller and it starts to feel like it's part of this flow, left to right through the center. You can almost make it like a figure 8 loop. Sometimes people feel better by moving actual gold and pearl in a figure 8 loop rather than just a liquid elixir flowing back and forth. Whatever works for you. Adjust it for your imagination. Yeah. And then come to rest in the center of the spiritual heart center. And just feel that space, very calm, pure, filled with love from the source. From the unconditional love, that pink cloud, you can still see that deeper inside there. And then let this golden elixir flow down your core channel to your navel center. You want to put your hands over your navel for a moment. And when the golden pearl, the golden elixir flows down there, again, start to flow to the right and to the left. And maybe sprawling around your left and right kidneys. Remembering that in the Chinese medical view, the Taoist medical view, fear is basically frozen water. The kidneys control the water in our body, the kidney spirit, the Zhi. And so we're just feeling this figure 8 or this flowing back and forth, this golden liquid light, starting to dissolve any fears we have. Yin or yang. Kidney yang is on the right side, kidney yin on the left. And you don't have to hold your hands there. Once you get this going, you relax them. And moving back and forth, just left and right, and dissolving fears. And now let's hold that fear of death, the big boogeyman, the biggest of all fears, the mother of all fears. Okay, right in the center. So we're flowing back and forth. We're seeing that it's just the neutral space where we don't have a formed identity, but it's still our space. It's just a neutral space that we can move in and out of, back and forth. One polarity through neutral to the other polarity. Yeah. And we can then pause and start to feel that we're just hanging in that neutral space now. There is some feeling of consciousness, the golden elixir, but it's just dissolving in deeper and deeper and going into a neutral space there. Well, let's just let ourselves rest there. Where we're not in any state of polarity, not in any state of acting or not acting. It's just actually in a space that's beyond all of that. And just feeling that's part of us. That's part of our space. That's part of who we are. And now let's put our hands over the navel and just bring our hands up the core channel up to our heart. Back into that pink cloud, relax there, feeling love, and even feeling now that we're supported. We have our backside, a primordial inner space is really covering us and allowing us to expand out. Open your hands up, open your eyes. Yeah. Let that radiate out. Yes. Out into a reality here. Front, sides, above and below. Yeah. All directions. And just knowing that we can maintain that feeling of self-love arising from source within us anytime. We can bathe our inner space with it, and then once we have that strong feeling inside of us, we can begin to share that with others. Even though they're trapped in fear, trapped in anger, trapped in other belief systems, we don't need to convert them. We don't need to change their belief systems. We just need to smile, radiate that vibration of acceptance, of love. That's all that matters. We just work on that deep level of perhaps it's their unconscious, or maybe they'll feel it. Maybe they're conscious enough to pick that up. Great. But if not, also great. I am smiling to all of the thousands of participants in this World Congress, all those who view this. I love you, and I love your power to love yourself. Just to bathe yourself in this fantastic cosmos of flowing chi. So amazing, so rich, and so wonderful that we have this chance to flow into this third heaven here, this little skin on the surface of the earth and the surface of the cosmos. Oh, what a privilege. And what a responsibility. So I hope that everyone is able to, in their own way, find their own path to self-love, and from there to love the greater whole. Thank you so much. Okay.